This is the second to last sermon in our Family Matters series. I'm going to end it up next week asking a more of a rhetorical question. Not rhetorical because I'm going to answer it, so I don't know. It's not rhetorical. I don't know what the word is there. But I'm going to ask the question, what would Jesus do if he were a parent, right? How would Jesus parent if he were a parent, right? Obviously, he was not married and he didn't have any kids, and so he wasn't a parent. But we're going to kind of extrapolate some things about the character of Jesus, the words of Jesus, and we're going to ask that question, how would Jesus parent? Because however Jesus would do it, that is the way that we want to do it. But this week, we're moving into this leaning into this idea of family unity. We started it last week with marriage, and now we're moving into the entire family. And so if you've ever watched a team that was completely in sync, you knows what they're doing, knows where they're going, then you're like, man, that team, they've got it together. And so if you're a football fan, if you're particularly a Dallas Cowboys fan like myself, you would look at the Dallas Cowboys offense and you would say, they got it. They are in sync. Then you would look at their defense and you would say, they're awful. They don't got it. They're out of whack. They're missing something. They just don't have it together. Or maybe you might think of a choir perfectly blending their voices together. I got to serve and help at the football game this week. My son plays in the band. He's on the drum things. He does drums. And so we help unload all their stuff and take care of all that kind of stuff. And we get there early, and we always get to hear the choir rehearsing the national anthem before they actually do the national anthem. And they're just in perfect harmony, in sync, this high school choir. That is until I started singing with them. And Becky got real embarrassed. Because evidently I wasn't part of the team, right? I wasn't doing it well. But when that choir blends their voices, it gives you the goosebumps. When everyone works together towards one goal, right, that's powerful. When there's no unity, though, when one person is offbeat or one person is running in the wrong direction, what tends to happen? Right? Things just fall apart. Real quick, don't they? The same is true with our families. God's designed the family for us to be a team, a unit that would reflect God's love and his character to the world. And unity doesn't just happen because we hope that it'll happen. It doesn't happen automatically. It takes humility, it takes patience, it takes forgiveness, and it takes a shared purpose. And so those are some of the themes that we're going to look at today, but I want you to go ahead and open your Bibles. We're going to be in Ephesians 4. And so as you turn there, you can just place a little marker there. We'll hit it in a little bit, but Ephesians 4, 1 through 6 is where we're going to be. And in this section, Paul speaks specifically to unity in the church, but I want you to remember that if you were here with us last week, he moves quickly into unity in marriage for a husband and wife, how you are to submit to one another in order to provide unity to your family. And then in the next section, he talks about how submission plays out between parents and children. And what we are going to see here is that in order to have unity in our family, it's going to take mutual submission and understanding, which can only be accomplished through humility, through patience, through forgiveness. So we didn't get to say this last week, but that word submission, remember we decided none of us really like that word, but it's a good word. That word submission literally means to be under the mission, okay? Under the mission. So submission doesn't mean weakness. It doesn't mean giving up your voice. It doesn't mean giving up your value. It means being under the same mission. And so in the family, that mission isn't about who in your family is in charge. It's not about what we are chasing. It is. It's about what we are chasing together. We're chasing a purpose, a mission to love God and to love people. And so as we look at submission in the Bible, it is to be under the mission of loving God, loving people. Or as we say here at Faith Chapel, pointing people to Jesus. So in the family, this isn't demanding obedience because of our selfishness, right? It's helping each other to know Jesus better. It's helping each other to love each other even when we disagree. It's being submitted under the mission because that is God's way, right? It's better than my own personal desires. So submission doesn't mean weakness. It doesn't mean giving up your voice or your value. We submit together to God's purpose. So this is going to change everything, right? Because submission isn't about hierarchy. It's about harmony. It's saying that we are all under God's mission for our family. You might remember in Ephesians 5:21, Paul says, submit to one another out of reverence to Christ. That means everyone in the family, husbands, wives, children, live under the same mission, the mission of following Jesus together. Husbands and wives, right? Submit to one another as you follow Christ's leadership. Children, submit to your parents as a reflection of trust and obedience to God. Fathers and mothers, submit to the mission by not provoking your children to anger, but bringing them up in the discipline and the instruction of the Lord. And when each person takes their place in the mission, the family actually moves together in unity because submission is strength, not weakness. Jesus himself, he models submission for us. We don't think about Jesus as being submissive, but he is. In Philippians 2:8, he says, and being found in human form, he humbled himself by being obedient to the point of death, even death on a cross. Jesus wasn't weak. Rome did not kill Jesus. Jesus gave his life for us. He's the strongest person who ever lived. His submission to the Father's mission was to save us. It was an act of love. It was an act of power. And when we submit to God's mission for our families, we're not giving up control. We're giving God control. And that's where peace in your family is going to begin. That's where unity is going to truly begin. And so today, as we talk about unity in the family, it's important that we hear this, that we would internalize this together. Unity doesn't come from everyone getting their way. It comes from everyone getting under God's way. I like to believe that if I always got my way, everything would be great. But my way is never, or not all, let's just say my way is never great, right? Unity does not come from everyone getting their way. It comes from everyone getting under God's way. When we humble ourselves, forgive freely, live with purpose, submit to the mission, our homes will reflect God's heart, the heart of Jesus. So now let's begin reading in Ephesians 4, verse 1. I, therefore, a prisoner for the Lord, urge you to walk in a manner worthy of the calling to which you have been called, with all humility and gentleness and patience, bearing with one another in love, eager to maintain the unity of the Spirit and the bond of peace. There is only one body and one Spirit, just as you were called to one hope that belongs to your call. One Lord, one faith, one baptism, one God and Father of all, who is over all and through all and in all. Now remember, Paul's writing to the church here. But this passage, it applies to our homes as well. Unity isn't just a church thing. It's a family thing. And so today, what we're going to see here is how we build and protect unity in our families. And so first, I want you to see this. Unity begins with humility. Look how Paul starts this. Be completely humble and gentle. Humility is the foundation of unity. You cannot have harmony in your home if everyone is trying to be the star of the show. If everyone is trying to be in charge, if everyone is trying to get things their way, if everyone is fighting for what they want, you are never going to have unity in your home. Because unity begins with humility. And here's what's funny. Humility is a trait that we all love. Everybody loves humility in other people. Right? You love the person who's humble at your job. You love it if your pastor is humble. You love it if your friend is humble. You love it if your kids are humble. You love it if your parents are humble. We all love humility in other people. But for us, it's a little harder. Right? We all love a humble person. And probably it's because, this is why I love a humble person. You ready? A humble person allows me to do whatever I want, right? A humble person allows me not to be humble, right? We all love a humble person because we all want, in reality, what we want is we want control. We want control of our lives. We want control of where we're going. We want control of the mission. We want control of everything. We all love a humble person. It allows me to be in control. That's something we all tend to love. But here's something that I want us to think about as we think about humility. And you've probably heard this before, but we should always, even if you've heard it before, we got to think about these things. Humility does not mean that you think less of yourself. It means that you think of yourself less. Okay? We're going to let that sink in. I'm going to say it one more time. Humility doesn't mean you think less of yourself. It means that you think of yourself less. It means that you're willing to listen before you speak. It means that you would serve before being served. It means that you would admit when you were wrong. It means that you would seek peace instead of trying to prove a point. And so in many families, conflict starts with one simple phrase or one simple thought, and this is it. I'm right. I'm right. You got to listen to me because I'm right. I know what I'm talking about. I am right. But humility doesn't make that statement. Instead, it asks this question. It asks, what is right for us? What is right according to Jesus? What does God want for our family? And so in many families, conflict starts with that simple thought, though, I'm right. And if I'm right, that means you're wrong. And if you're wrong, you need to get under what I say. And God says, no, that's not submission. Submission is submitting to the mission. Jesus gave us this perfect example of humility in John 13 as you might remember, he kneels down and he washes the disciples' feet, including Judas, who he already knows is going to betray him. He washes Judas's feet. The Son of God, he took on the posture of a servant. And so if we want unity in our homes, it starts there. It starts with the posture of a servant. Parents, humility might mean admitting to your kids when you've overreacted. Have anyone with kids ever overreacted? Yeah. We got this little phrase, or I have this little phrase in my house that with my kids, when I do something stupid, or I overreact, or I think I'm right and it turns out I'm wrong, which, I mean, it's rare, but I'll say, I'll do something and I'll say, dum-dum daddy, right? And I did it since the kids were little, and they just think it's so funny, right? Dumb, dumb daddy. And ever since, like, now, like, I got one in high school, I have one in college, and they still, like, if I do something stupid, they're like, say it, Dad, say it. And I know it's dumb, but it's a way of, like, apologizing. It's a way of me recognizing in front of my kids that I don't have it all together, that I'm just a dumb, dumb daddy. And I think it's important that our kids would know, that we would be able to admit when we overreact. Kids, humility might mean honoring your parents even when you think that they don't understand you. I'm going to highlight that word think they don't understand you. Most of the time we do, because we've already done what you're doing. We also thought that our parents didn't understand us. And get ready. Your grandma and grandpa, my parents, thought that their parents didn't understand them, right? This is just a generational thing we go through, kids. Spouses, humility might be saying, I'm sorry, even if you weren't 100% at fault. This plays out in mine and Becky's life like this. I do something, and so I started the fight, but then, she reacts, and so I'm 100% wrong about how the fight got started, but I'm not 100% wrong in how the fight progressed. Or the other way around, maybe she was 100% wrong, but I was wrong in the way I reacted, right? And so she's 100% wrong in the way this fight started, but I'm also wrong in the way it progressed. And so we need to learn to say, I'm sorry, even if it's not 100% our fault. Humility is like oil in an engine, right? It's like the oil in the engine of the family. Without it, everything is going to grind and overheat, but with it, everything runs much smoother. If you ever driven a car without putting oil in the car or neglecting your oil changes, you know what that does. We had a Pontiac Sunfire when we were pretty newly married, and we thought it was so cool. It had a little moonroof and a little coupe, like a really cute little car for Becky. And we're newly married. We weren't very smart. We didn't do a lot of things well and neglected oil changes and like just cracked the engine head on it and had to do something else. We probably didn't do the oil changes because we were broke and needed more money. And so we were like, well, we can wait. But then we ended up spending more money on a new car than an oil change would have cost us. So there's a problem there. But anyway, when we neglect humility, when we neglect the oil that makes our family run smoothly, we find ourselves in the same place, wrecked. And so here's point number 2. Unity, though. Unity grows through patience and forgiveness. Unity grows through patience and forgiveness. This is humility in action. Paul goes on to tell us, be patient, bearing with one another. That phrase, bearing with one another, if you want to know what that means, it means what it says. It literally, put up with one another. You're under the same house, all right? You're under the same roof. Put up with one another. Bear with one another. It's not always glamorous. But families require that kind of love. Families require that kind of love that says, I'm not giving up on you. Because let's be honest, no family is perfect. No family is perfect. Every family has moments of tension, frustration, misunderstandings. That's probably the biggest one. And hurt. But unity grows when we choose patience over payback. Forgiveness over bitterness. But just think about Joseph in the Old Testament. I don't know if y'all know this, but you might remember Joseph. He's got his brothers, and Dad loves Joseph more than he loves any of the rest of them, and he gives him this nice coat, has all the rainbow colors on it, and he's just a coat of many colors, and he's like, check out my coat, guys, and all the other guys are like, well, my coat has holes in it, and it needs to be stitched up. Dad didn't give me a new coat, and they don't like Joseph. The brothers don't like him, so they sell him into slavery, and they lie to their father, and they just kind of leave him for dead. And years later, Joseph rises to power, and he could have taken revenge on his brothers, but instead he says, what you meant for evil, God meant for good. And Joseph forgives them. And because he forgives them, his family is then restored, and an entire nation is saved. So what we need to see here is forgiveness is not saying it's okay that you did this. It's saying, I won't let this break us. Forgiveness is like pulling weeds in a garden. If you ignore them, they're gonna choke out the fruit. But if you will pull them early, the garden will thrive. So let me ask you this. Is there someone in your family that needs your forgiveness, that you need to forgive? Is there a spouse, a child, a parent, a sibling? Right? Don't let those old wounds rob you of your peace. Forgiveness might not fix everything. It might not fix everything overnight. It might not even repair the relationship. But it opens the door to healing. It opens the door to unity. All right, here's point number 3. Unity is sustained by a shared purpose. Unity is sustained by a shared purpose. Paul writes, make every effort to keep unity of the Spirit through the bond of peace. There's one body and one Spirit. And I want you to notice this phrase, make every effort. That means try. That doesn't mean, oh, well, you're mad. I'm mad at you. I don't like it. You did this. I'm done. It means try. Unity takes work. It's not passive. You don't just get unity. You have to fight for unity. And one of the best ways to keep unity alive is to remember what unites you. It's your purpose. It's your mission. Remember, we are under the mission. Romans 12:18 tells us that as far as it depends on you, be at peace with everyone. Let's import that into your family now. As far as it depends on you, be at peace with your family. Make every effort. In the Christian family, the goal is not just to survive under one roof. The goal is to glorify Jesus together. When families lose sight of their shared mission, small things become big things become insurmountable things. But when Jesus is the center, everything else can find its place. And so we need to make it a priority to bring the mission of God into our family. And so here's some ways that we can do this, right? You can pray together as a family. You can talk about Jesus regularly, not just when things are going poorly, not just in discipline, right? This is what we do. We're like, oh man, you messed up. God's not happy with that, and you make God the punishment, right? We got to talk about Jesus. We got to talk about our Lord when things are going well. And then we can also talk about it in discipline. We got to talk about Jesus regularly. We serve together. Find ways where your family can be together and can serve together. Right? Volunteer here at Faith Chapel. Help a neighbor. Support a mission project. Do something together. Talk about what God is doing in your lives. Make spiritual conversations normal. Think about a family in a rowboat. If everyone rows in different directions and different times and just kind of does what they want to do, you're just going to spin in circles. But when everyone rose together with the same rhythm, with the same goal, you move forward. That's what Christ-centered family looks like. Moving forward in the same direction, powered by love, powered by purpose. And I want you to notice something about Jesus, right, and his desire for unity. Before Jesus would go to the cross, he prayed something incredible, something that echoes throughout eternity. In John 17, he prays this: I do not ask for these only, but also for those who will believe in me through their word, that they may all be one, just as you, Father, are in me and I am in you, that they may be in us, so that the world may believe that you have sent me. Let that sink in for a moment. Out of all the things that Jesus could have prayed for before the cross, he did not pray for our comfort. He did not pray for our success. He didn't even pray for our safety. He prayed for our unity. Because Jesus believed that unity reflects the very heart of God. You got the Trinity, Father, Son, Holy Spirit, right? It's always existed in perfect unity. 3 persons, one God, completely aligned in love and completely aligned in purpose. And when our families will walk in unity, we reflect that. We show the world just a small picture of what God himself is like. When our home is filled with love and forgiveness and patience and grace, it becomes a living testimony. People will see your family and they're going to think there's something different about them. And that difference is Jesus. But we also have to recognize something. There's an enemy that hates unity. Satan knows that if he can divide the family, he can distract from your mission. In fact, that word Satan, the name Satan, actually means accuser. If he can accuse you, if he can, in your mind, accuse your wife, accuse your husband, accuse your children, if he could put these little pieces of doubt in your minds, in your heart, and your soul, if he can break up unity, he can stop the purposes of God. And that's what he wants. If he could stir up bitterness between a husband and wife or resentment between a parent and a child, he can silence the witness of our home. Divided families lead to divided churches, and divided churches lose their power in the world. But when families are united, when forgiveness replaces pride, when prayer replaces arguing, when love replaces anger, something powerful happens. The Spirit of God moves. Peace fills the home. And the watching world gets a front row seat at the goodness of God. So Faith Chapel, to make this personal, ask, what can you do this week to build unity in your family? Maybe someone needs to hear the words, I'm sorry, or dum dum daddy. Maybe you need to pick up the phone and reach out to a family member you haven't spoken to in a while. Maybe you need to forgive, not because they deserve it, but because Jesus forgave you. Maybe it's as simple as sitting down together for dinner again. Maybe you just haven't done it in a while. No phones, no distractions, just connection. Maybe it's praying together before the kids go to bed. Maybe it's choosing to laugh again, to enjoy one another the way God intended. Whatever this looks like for you, you take the first step. Don't wait for someone else to do it. Don't wait for the other person to make the first move. Be the one who says, I will go under the mission and I will be the peacemaker. Take the first step. Too often we say, well, I would do this if they would do this. Well, if my kid would just do this, I would calm down a little bit. If my wife would just do this, I could care for her and love her more. If my husband would just do this, I would listen to him and I'd respect him more. Just make the first move. Because you know what else will happen? If you will love your wife the way Christ loves the church, she will listen to you and respect you more. If you will just care and give forgiveness to your children or ask for forgiveness if needed, they will respect you more. If you will take the first step as a child and say, hey, Dad or Mom, I messed up on this thing and I ask for your forgiveness and I'm going to try to do better next time. They're going to go easier on you, students. If we will share the load here, if we will take the first step, if we will go under the mission, if we will be the peacemaker, let's make our homes places where God's peace lives, where his Spirit can move freely, where his love is seen every single day. Because when our families are united, our faith becomes visible. And when our faith becomes visible, the world then can see Jesus.